Hello, fifth grade. It was so nice seeing your faces on Tuesday, and I look forward to seeing you again when we meet. So I hope that your homework didn't give you that much trouble. If it did, we'll go over it today on our live Zoom, but we're going to move right into our new lesson today, and that is on greatest common factors. Now, I love greatest common factors. I've always enjoyed finding them, and they come in very handy when you are trying to make two denominators the same. Okay, so if you remember back around Christmas time, right before Christmas, we did factor trees. Do you remember those? Remember we did all the factors on the trees. We had the number up at the top, and then we did all the factors, and then we found prime factors. So talking about prime factors and greatest common factors and common factors, first we have to remember what a factor is. Remember, a factor is two numbers that are multiplied together to get another number. Okay? So when you're trying to find the greatest common factor, you have to find all of the numbers that are multiplied together to get a certain number. Okay? So we're going to take those numbers, those factors, and list them out in order from 1 to the number that is the number we're finding the factors for. And then if it's two different numbers, we're going to list the factors of all of that, the first number, and then the factors of the second number, and we're going to find the factor that they both have in common. Now, they might have more than one factor in common, but we're going to try to find the one that is the greatest or the biggest that they have in common. Okay, so first, let's remember how to find the factors. So I have some friends here. I have these 8 little bunnies here. I don't know if you've seen some bunnies hopping around this spring already. We have some brown and gray ones that hop around. They're pretty cute. So let's say that 8 is our number that we're going to try to find factors for. So we need to find all the numbers that are multiplied together to get the number 8. Using these bunnies. Okay, so let's say I have these 8 bunnies. I can multiply by 1 group of 8. So 1 times 8. So 1 is a factor. Okay, I can also multiply by 2 because there are 4 equal groups of 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8. So 1 is a factor and 2 is a factor. Now, can I multiply by 3 to get 8? No, there are not equal groups of 3. So 1 is a factor, 2 is a factor, 3 is not a factor. 4 is a factor. We know that because we already said that 2 times 4 is 8. And then 5 is not a factor, 6 is not a factor, 7 is not a factor, but 8 is a factor. So if you remember back when we were talking about factors, when we were listing them out in order, you could actually go from the 2 sides in to get all of your factors. So we have 1 times 8, 2 times 4, and those are all of the factors for 8. So I'm going to show you this here. We're going to move our, sorry bunnies. We're going to move our bunny friends. I'm going to show you an example of finding the greatest common factor. So I have 2 numbers here, 9 and 12, and I have all of their factors. I have all of their factors written out, okay? Let me stand up. I have 9 factors, 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. I don't need to write the 3 twice because I just know that 3 is a factor. Okay, now I have 12. Okay, we have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Okay, so when I look at 1, 3, and 9 for 9, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12 for 12, what is the biggest number or the greatest number that they both have in common? Okay, they both have 1 in common. They both have 3 in common. Do they have 9 in common? No. So 3 for 9 and 12, 3 would be the greatest common factor. Okay? So we're going to do 18 and 24. But in order to do 18 and 24, I'd like you to open up to your book to page 414. You can either pause it or just take a minute to open up your book to page 414. Okay, so I thought that this was a great way of explaining it, the greatest common factor. Let's look at underneath activity. How many are on each team? Okay. There are 18 boys and 24 girls who will be divided into teams. Each team will consist of either all boys or all girls. Each team will have an equal number of players. Letter A. Name all possible teams of only boys. Okay, so you could have 1 team of 18, right? 2 teams of 9, 3 teams of 6, 4 teams? No, because 18 is not divisible by 4. 5 teams? 6 teams? Okay, so now we're starting to get to the middle where you're multiplying by each other. Okay? Sorry. So 3 times 6, see that in the middle? And so then we have 2 times 9. So we already have 2, so I'm going to write down 9. And then 1 times 18. Okay, so the factors of 18, all of the numbers that are multiplied together to get 18 are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. Okay, so but remember there were 24 boys. So let's see how many different ways you can divide up the boys. Okay, so you have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, and now we get towards the middle. See, 4 and 6 are at the middle. 3 times 8, 2 times 12, and 1 times 24. Okay, so those are all the factors of 24. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. Okay, so those are all the factors of 18 and 24. Now, if you look at 18 and 24, they actually have a lot of factors in common. But we're looking for the greatest common factor. Okay, so we have 1 in common, 2 in common, 3 in common, 6 on the top, 4 for 24, so we do not have 4 in common, 6 in common, and then that's the last one that we have in common. So 6 is the greatest common factor of 18 and 24? Okay, 6 would be the greatest common factor, or the GCF, of 18 and 24. Okay, so let's look at our soccer teams. I'm assuming it's soccer teams because they have a soccer ball. Okay, so how can you find the greatest common factor? A common factor of two numbers are factors that are the same. The greatest common factor, GCF, of two numbers is the greatest number that is a factor of both, okay? So in the example, this is what we just did. Look down at the tan box. Find the greatest common factor of 18 and 24. First, list the factors of 18 and 24, and it's very important to list them in order from smallest to largest. It's way easier to see the greatest common factor when they're all listed in order, okay? Step 2, circle the pairs of common factors and find the GCF, okay, which is the greatest common factor. So you're going to circle all of the factors that are the common factors, and then whichever one is last that they have in common will be the greatest common factor because it's the biggest one that they have in common together, okay? So if two numbers are prime numbers, remember what that was? A prime number is something that its factors are only one in itself. A composite number is a number that has more factors than just one in itself. So if you have two prime numbers, what is the greatest common factor going to be? That's right. Okay, so let's look at check on the top of page 415. Your homework for today is going to be practice odd. Now remember, I told you last time, practice also includes the mixed number review and test prep, okay? It's really not that much since you're doing odd, and we're gonna do some of them together on our live Zoom. Okay, so let's look at check to see if we understand. Okay, find the greatest common factor of each pair of numbers. Okay, so number 1 is 16 and 24. Now some of these you should write them out, especially at the beginning so that you can see it. But some of them, it's gonna be very obvious in your head if you know your multiplication tables. Okay, so for 16 and 24, we know they both have 1. We know they both have 2. We know that they both have 4. And then they both have 8. And that's as high as it goes. So the greatest common factor of 16 and 24 is going to be 8. If you want to see it done out so that you know how to do it when you're doing it. 1, 2, 4, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 12, 24. Sorry, I ran out of room. Okay, so common factors: 1, 2, 4, and 8. And so the highest one will be, the greatest common factor is going to be 8. Okay, 25 and 40. Well, I know just from looking at it what I think it's going to be. What are both of those divisible by? We know that if something ends in a 5 or a 0, that it's divisible by 5. So just by looking at it, I'm thinking that the greatest common factor is going to be 5, okay? But let's check. So 25 and 40. I know that they both have 1. So 25 is 1, 5, 25. Because we have 1 times 5 and then 5 times, or 1 times 25 and 5 times 5. Those are the only factors of 25. And then 40 is going to be 1, 2, 4. So we have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 3 is not 1 because it's even, 4 times 10, 8 times 5, so 5, 8, 10, 20, 40. So what is the greatest common factor? I was right, it's 5. Okay, so 1 and 5 are the only common factors. Okay, so the greatest common factor is 5. Okay, some of these are going to take a little bit longer. They're easy. It's just you have to write out all of the factors, and if you know your multiplication tables, it's going to be so much easier. But we will do some of these together on our live Zoom. But if you would like to get a head start, for right now, this video is 16 minutes and 39 seconds, 41, 42. So I'm going to say goodbye for a few minutes, and I will see you in a few minutes. But if you'd like to get a head start on practice odd, you're going to start with 7, then 9, 11, 13, etc. So if you'd like to get a head start on that, I will see you in a few minutes, and we'll talk all about greatest common factors and go over your homework.